There's a new roof rack on the market for Tacomas now, made so you don't have to cut your adventure short. The TRMR rack from TrailRax, which I've been running on the Bronco for a long time, is now available for the Toyota Tacoma. So I got my hands on one for my brother's Tacoma, so we ripped the old one off and put this one back in for a massive upgrade.
Definitely more stout, that's for sure.
So if you've been around the channel for a long time, you will recognize this truck. This is my old Tacoma that my brother bought for me about a year ago, and he's been loving it. It's been going on adventures, it's been seeing cool things. You just haven't seen it on the channel for a little bit. So here it is, but today we are gonna upgrade the roof rack. The guys at TrailRax, which I've been working with for a while, sent me out a rack for the Tacoma. They released this new roof rack system recently, and I think there's a lot of little improvements that make it far superior to anything else that's on the market right now. We'll get into all that a little bit later throughout the install, but right now it's time to tear this old one off and get the TrailRax on there.
For us, this installation started with the removal of the old roof rack, which luckily was super easy. 5 bolts on each side for a total of 10, remove those, and the roof rack came right off.
Okay, one of the things I really like about the TrailRax product, and this doesn't help the functionality of the rack at all, but they send these little plates and you can use them or you can throw them away. What I like to do is paint them so it has an accent on the roof rack. So on the Bronco, I have it painted orange for the Badlands trim level. On the Tacoma, our intent was to paint it red to match the TRD, but the primer that Jake got matches the cement gray almost perfectly, so we might actually go that route. But either way, I think it's a small thing, but I think it's a cool touch to just personalize your rack a little bit more. So we're about to start assembling the rack and throw it on the roof of the Tacoma. But there's a couple things I wanted to show you first, some things that TrailRax did to help improve the strength of the rack itself. So the first thing they did is this side rail. So something they do that's a little unique is they have this 90-degree bend up top. If you have a flat piece of metal, it's kind of wobbly if you were to shake it. This doesn't bend. Like it's not gonna bend. It's a super rigid and strong side rail. In addition to that, you're gonna have some center T-slot extrusion bars that aren't going to be mounted on the roof at all. So what they did to address that are these little cross supports that help with the weight of those that aren't mounted on the truck itself. So these are super cool. So with all that said, we're gonna get the rack assembled and get it up. It should be a super easy and painless install.
The first thing you're going to want to do is apply the weather stripping on the wind deflector. You simply press this on the bottom edge of the wind deflector, and at the end where you have excess material, use a pair of shears and cut that off. With the rubber seal on, the next thing you want to do is attach the wind deflector to one of the aluminum extrusions. There are 10 1/4-inch T-nuts that go onto the extrusion. Slide those into place, and what I like to do is butt the wind deflector up against the extrusion so you can kind of line up the holes on the wind deflector with the T-nuts, which will make things a whole lot easier when you go to bolt down the wind deflector to the extrusion bar.
All right, so the next thing, Jake, we gotta do is we're taking these carriage bolts, okay? Sliding them on here, and this is we're gonna attach the those like cross supports to them.
With the cross supports on, use the provided locking nuts to bolt them down to the extrusion. Leave them a little bit loose so you can adjust them once you actually put it on the side rails. Now it's time to actually get the rack together. What you're going to want to do is attach the extrusion with the wind deflector on it, the 2 middle extrusions, and then the very rear extrusion as well. We did it wind deflector first, then the rear, then we added the 2 middle supports.
Okay, so next thing is we have to put these little brackets on, and you can see there's arrows on it right here and right here. So the double arrow is going to be the passenger side, the single arrow is going to be the driver's side. So we need to put these on the extrusion bars on the forwardmost extrusion bar, and then the second one in from the back. And that's gonna coincide with the 2 holes side by side on the roof of the Tacoma. Okay, so we're about to install the rack on the roof, but what we need to do prior to that is adjust the weather stripping. TrailRax sends these nice little rubber blocks, which I actually really like, because this is going to take some of the force. Instead of transferring it straight to the vehicle, this is going to absorb some of the force from the rack. So I think this is a super cool move. But what we need to do is cut out a portion of the weather stripping to allow these to sit in there. So this is gonna be pretty simple because we already had a roof rack on here. The major cuts are already done. There's a steel core cable that runs through that. It's really hard to cut through. So the steel cables are already cut through, which is really nice. So all we have to do is remove this rubber right here, which actually, it looks like I can cut this right where the steel core was cut, and that's gonna be perfect. So we need to do this for both sides, one on the front and one on the back. And once that's done, we can get the roof rack on.
What you may notice right here is there's a little cylindrical object that's poking up out of the middle of the weather stripping. There is a mounting location from the factory here, and the previous rack utilized that. The TrailRax does not, however. So what we did was we left that little cylindrical plug in there, filled it with silicone, and then put a bolt through it to make sure that that area was sealed off.
Oh, dude, that's perfect.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, that is money.
With the blocks and weather stripping in place, it's time to insert 2 spacers into each block. After that, you'll apply silicone to each hole. Now it's time to mount the last 2 extrusion bars that we were working on that actually mount to the roof of the Tacoma. On each mounting location, you'll have an M6 by 45mm hex cap screw and 2 washers onto each mounting bracket. Remember, you'll have a little bit of play with the mount on the extrusion bar to allow you to center them perfectly before actually getting the roof rack up there. At this point, the paint should be dry on those blank tabs that they sent. So put those on the roof rack, and it's time to get this rack on the Tacoma.
So glad these are light. I know. So graceful.
This is nice. The other rack didn't clear the shark fin. Clears it perfectly. I know. I wasn't able to put that bar back there because of it.
Yeah, I like the new rack. It's you know, it's not very different from what I used to have, but you can definitely tell if you know what you're looking for. It seems like you have a lot more mounting places to it, a lot more accessibility along the side. Definitely more stout, that's for sure. So, yeah, I'm definitely excited with the upgrade.
Install complete, it was time to test this thing out. We got it on the road, up to highway speeds, and then we also took it to the trails. This rack made 0 noise on anything that we put it through. With all the twisting and articulation that the truck went through, there was no creaks or anything happening on the roof rack. At freeway speeds, there was 0 whistling or wind noise to speak of. This rack was perfect. The mounting situation changed a little more than we thought it was going to, so nothing is mounted on the rack currently. And I will say that's probably one area where this rack could be improved. It would be super nice for those extrusions, those T-slots, to have openings to where you don't have to remove the extrusion bars every time you want to add or remove different hardware. Overall, a very minor complaint for a product that isn't going to fail you on the trail.